Representative Scalise, great to see you tonight. How's it been?
Great to be with you, Martha.
Before you're about to get out? Great to have you.
Well, I guess like
How's
a lot of people, you're spending most of your time on the phone anyway, just, with social distancing. It's not like you can be in large groups, but I'll be glad to be freed up in a few hours. But really worked hard the last few days with a lot of my colleagues to make sure we got the votes and the policy right, more importantly, to pass this major relief bill, the CARES package. And that's going to be something that's going to be a lifeline to so many families and small businesses who are really hanging on by a thread right now. So President Trump and his whole team, Secretary Mnuchin, worked incredibly hard. And you saw Republicans and Democrats come together, including today on the House floor. So, it was something that was very necessary to get this done quickly, to get relief to those families and businesses quickly so that you don't see the mass layoffs. We've seen a lot, millions of people going on the unemployment rolls. This hopefully will stave that off. This bill, it's got some really important small business loans through our local banks that will participate in this to get that much needed relief to our businesses so that they can hold on to their workers.
I mean, everyone, I think, understands the very difficult situation that the hit to this economy is just unbelievable. When you lock down the entire country, the impact that has is extraordinary, and businesses are going to continue to feel it. We saw 3 million unemployed this week, and it's likely to continue next week. But it was interesting. I was listening to Mitch Daniels, the former governor of Indiana, of course, now the president of Purdue, former OMB, talking about what we're doing here. And I just listened to the president say that, there could be a stage 4 of this that would be more relief to the states. And, Mitch Daniels talked about this enormous burden that this is going to put on generations to come. Do you have any concerns about that at this point?
Well, clearly you're concerned about the cost of it. And, you talk about a $2.2 trillion package. Largest package we've ever passed.
And 4 more coming.
The whole federal budget is a little over $3.5 trillion. But if you also look at the other side of that, when you talk about over 3 million people on the unemployment rolls in 1 week, with, like you said, more to come, those are people that aren't paying payroll taxes. They're not paying Social Security taxes. We need to get this economy back up and running. We have to have an economy for people to go back to. And that's really what this bill that was passed today in Congress was all about, is making sure we can have jobs for people to go back to so that we can have an economy that can fund what was the greatest economic engine in the world when you saw where we were just a month ago. And President Trump's real focused on making sure that we can have that economy to come back to. And so clearly there were some unprecedented actions that had to be taken, not only by Congress, but what you're seeing out of the Fed with the easing of money, with commercial paper being released, to make sure banks have the ability to get that money out there so they don't have to foreclose. I mean, can you imagine if you had millions of small businesses filing bankruptcy and banks having to foreclose on worthless assets? Is that really where we want to go? I don't think so. And so I know for those people, anybody can be a naysayer, but I think everybody knows we're in unprecedented times. We've got to make sure we have an economy to go back to. And the damage that would happen if we didn't have all of those businesses intact would be much worse than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, New Orleans is a hot spot right now. There are projections that it will experience what New York is beginning to experience next week or potentially the week after. And you've got the Florida governor now saying that if anybody comes from Louisiana, he wants them to self-quarantine for a couple of weeks. What is your projection for New Orleans? Obviously, it's all about tourism, all about getting those restaurants reopened there. Is this a month? Is it 2 months? What do you say to folks at home about when they can get reopened?
Well, it's real concerning what's happening in New Orleans right now. And I've talked to the mayor of New Orleans and working with the governor on a number of things to get more relief down there, to get more tests, which we were able to do to get some test pods. There's a nursing home in my district where 11 people died already. And it's tragic. We were able to get CDC now to send an expert down there to help work with them. But look, if you see New York, they're probably at the high end of the spike. And we've always heard Dr. Fauci and others talking about the spike going up and then ultimately coming back down. And so our main focus has been working with our hospitals to make sure that they're not overwhelmed. And clearly they're being pushed to the limit. And by the way, our healthcare workers are doing phenomenal work right now on the front line, risking their own lives and safety, but doing the job to make sure that they keep people safe. And so I appreciate the work they're doing, but they need help. This bill, by the way, gives them a lot of help, too.
When do you see New Orleans opening up again?
Well, look, I think when you see the rest of the country, when you see the spike come down, and there are some communities, by the way, that haven't had it hit, where they know it's probably maybe a week or two behind where we are, just like where you saw China. China was over a month ahead of where we were because it started in China. We wish they would have been more transparent with us about it, but ultimately that caused it to come here in a delayed way. And so it's hitting some cities like New York and New Orleans harder today, but then we'll ultimately come back down from it, and you'll see other communities get it. But I think everybody around the country has recognized how serious it is. You're seeing people stay at home when they can. Well, when they go out, they're keeping distance and they're washing their hands. That's what we all need to do.
That is what we need to do. And I think for the most part, that is what people are doing. I think people have been very compliant for the most part. There's the outliers, of course. Interesting to see that Wuhan is planning to reopen some schools, some public transportation, and that's a 2-month period, basically, from February 8th to reopening. So we'll see how that goes. Chief Scalise, thank you very much, Representative. Good to see you as always.
We're going to come back,
Take care.
We've been through a lot of other things, too. We're going to get through this. Thanks, Martha.